Hi everybody, it's Anthony Mead here. I'm the author of Raceching Simplified. This was a book that I wrote a little while ago, and it concentrates on horse racing. Now, basically, it's Raceching Simplified is a book where we use the hexagrams of the I Ching to help us as an aid to pick the winners of horse races on a newspaper racing card. Now, this might sound a bit fantastic, but it is something I worked out for many years before I produced the first of my books, which was called Raceching, The Future is an Anagram. Now, the Raceching Simplified came out of this, and basically what happens in Raceching Simplified, we make hexagrams from the name of the races. There's a set procedure for doing it, and it's very simple. I've written another book called Simplified I Ching, and I'm showing people how to do ordinary questions by just writing them down and divining from the question. Now, this is similar, except the obvious difference is the name of the race is there in the newspaper racing page, you know, and on sites like the Racing Post site. So you make hexagrams out of the name of any horse race that you want to. Usually I keep it to races where there's 7 or 8 runners, sometimes even less. A set procedure for it. It's very simple, and the idea is, once you get the hexagrams drawn up, is to use the hexagrams in relation to the 2 sets of trigrams to find out where the winner is coming from. Now, I'll explain that. Each trigram of the I Ching relates to a certain direction on the compass, northwest, southeast, this sort of thing. So I advocate that if you can draw up the hexagrams out of the name of the race, put them all together, you'll get an idea of the direction of where the winning horse is stabled. It's like, you know, you'll get a direction pointing to where the trainer or the stables are located. And I've used this loads and loads of times and got some really good winners out of it. Now, it's not something that can work every time, and the reason it won't work every time is you'll get some races that are just impossible to rate as regards to this, because there's so many runners. You know, you get 20 odd runners, or 17 runners, 13 runners. It's very hard, and a lot of the times there's a lot of horses clustered together where you've got trainers that are all, you know, in the same place. You get this a lot when you've got a lot of northern trainers, races for northern trainers, where, you know, most of the yards will be up in the north or something, and they've all come down to contest this race, and perhaps you've only got a couple of other yards there. But I have found over the years that Raceching Simplified works in a lot of instances, especially where you've got a fancied enough horse, or a horse with a reasonable enough amount of form, that, you know, is what I call in an isolated area that the I Ching picks out. So using the hexagrams of the I Ching, we can basically locate where the winner is coming from. And like I say, you've got to marry it up with a little bit of form. I mean, form is essential in this, because, you know, obviously the best horses are there, and they're more towards the top of the handicap or towards the top of the page. And if you can single them out and you can find out where the horse is actually coming from, you've got a great chance of narrowing it down. And like I said, I've had some brilliant winners out of it. I've had winners with Raceching up to 100 to 1, and I'm not kidding you on that. I picked Monmomi some years ago. I documented it on a site on the internet that I was operating at the time. It was a club site, a Yahoo club site. The post is still up there, so there's a proof of it. Some years after that, I picked another one, which was similar price, and that was it, the St Leger meeting a couple of years ago. Now, I don't say you get that every time. You won't, and I haven't had it to the point where I've had loads of things like that. Obviously, you know, there's been a couple of 20-to-1 winners in there, some 12-to-1s, but most of them have been around the sort of 3-to-1, 6-to-1 position. You operate in that kind of area, but that's good enough. I've had a lot of fun with Raceching Simplified, and this is really how I'm putting it across to people. It's not to be seen as the golden chalice as stuff, the holy grail, but it is a fantastic word game and race game, if you like, to have some fun in identifying winners and getting your fair share of them. But this is one of the ways that I've used where we try to pick the area out. Now, in this particular video, all I'm going to do is show you how we make hexagrams out of the name of the race. Obviously in the book all the information is there, there's a ton load of it, but I want to try and strip some of the mystique away from this book, because a lot of people said, oh, it looks difficult, it's, you know, it's so complex. It's not complex, it's not difficult, there's a lot in it, but the basic fundamentals of this book are quite simple, and all you need to do really is just see it in action to realize how simple it is and how effective it is. There aren't many books around that will show you how to make I Ching hexagrams out of a race, but this is one of them, and there is a set logical procedure. But what I'm going to show you today is a very simple version. It's a race that took place on the 2nd of September 2018, so this year, and it's only a few runners. There's only about 5 runners. It's a race where immediately I saw the potential of finding the winner, because the Chinese directions were favouring it. Now, we won't be learning about the directions today. I'll follow it on with another video that'll knock on from this particular video that I'll show you today. But today all I'm going to do is just show you this particular race, how I made I Ching hexagrams, or rather an I Ching hexagram out of it, and then in a later set of slides we'll knock it on and show you how I identified the winner. Obviously, it's got to be in a very simple format. This can't give you all the book information. I mean, if you want to know more, you'll have to go onto Amazon and research the Raceching Simplified book. It's up there for sale. You can find some more information over it, but I wanted to show you how simple it is to start with this, and once you get au fait with it, how much fun you can have, and you can make some profit. I have made profit with this. Also, I've gone mad with it as well, and given a bit of it back to the bookies, like we all do. I've got a bit carried away, and you can with this, but if you're shrewd, if you're careful, if you do this and combine it with a little bit of armchair punting form, you can score highly with it. Now, the next slide, we'll get down to work. Okay, how to form an I Ching hexagram out of the name of a race. Now, the process for doing this is very, very simple, and I've picked an example that is probably the most simplistic, because the actual title of the race is very basic. Look, the race we're going to use was one that was run on the 2nd of the 9th at Brighton. I believe it was a Sunday, and the only part of that race card, look, that's printed there, the only part that we want is the name of the race itself, which is the Holcomb Handicap. Now, this is easy because you know, the Holcomb Handicap, look, it's just 2 words. Under normal circumstances, you won't get this. In a lot of races, they're quite diversified in terms of the title or the name of the race. You don't get this in other countries either. You know, if you go to America, it's very basic, their racing, in terms of you know, the race titles. Here in England, there's a lot of sponsorship, a lot of advertising, and you know, you can get race names that are possibly 15 to 16 words long, but they add for the diversity in terms of making up the hexagrams of the I Ching. Now, Holcomb handicap's dead easy, and the way we go about it, to form an I Ching hexagram from the name of that race, we split the two words, look, Holcomb and handicap. We put a slash mark in the middle. To form the top trigram, we're going to count the letters in Holcomb, and there are 8. So we divide 8 by 8, and the reason we do this is because there are 8 trigrams or trigrams that make up all 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. So 8 by 8, the division works out perfectly, and there's no remainder. So 8 becomes our top trigram. Normally there's a remainder, and it's always a remainder figure that will form the trigram, but in this instance it works out perfectly. So we relate to or revert to the number 8, which in the I Ching is kun. All this information, by the way, is in the Raceching book, and there's another book called Simplified I Ching, which is similar in regards to how we make up the hexagrams, and the information there on the trigrams or the trigrams is the same. So it's all there in the book, but obviously I'm going to just give you a brief little insight into this, so you can see how simple it is. I mean, one of the things over the years, and you know, Raceching's been out a little while. The first publication was in 2007 and sold in America. There's a more simplistic version out in this country, but people used to come up to me and say, oh, you know, it's great, or it looks great, and you've had some good winners, but how do we do it? See, I think it's something where people are a bit befuddled. I don't blame them either. I mean, I did see the logic in it, but when you see how easy this is, you'll realise that, you know, you get into this, you can do something with it. Definitely, you can do something with this, because when you make you know, the hexagram up, you will be able to work out where the horse in the race, the winner, is coming from. And I've said this already, and I'm going to show you this. But anyway, let's not get too far off track. Holcomb, we've made kun, trigram 8, look, and we've stuck it there. So that is the top trigram of our hexagram. Now in the next slide I'll make the bottom, and that will be dead easy as well, because we're going to make that out of the word handicap. So I'll see you in the next slide, and we'll get cracking with it. In the last slide we formed the top trigram from the first word in the name of the race, Holcomb. Now in this particular slide, we're going to form the bottom trigram from the word handicap. So we've got our top trigram there, look, kun, and the process to form the bottom trigram is exactly the same. Count the letters in handicap. There are 8 letters. Divide by 8, simply because there are 8 trigrams or trigrams that make up all 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. The result's similar to the top trigram, in as much as the division worked out perfectly. There is naught remainder. Always the remainder figure under normal circumstances will form the trigram. In this instance there is no remainder, so we revert to the trigram or trigram 8. So it's kun once again. So the two trigrams are the same, kun and kun. In the last slide we can put the two trigrams together and we can form an I Ching hexagram, and that's what we're going to do. So I'll just reiterate, look, because I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen this, you know, and you'll be a bit amazed at it. You're probably thinking, well, God, how can you do this, you know, in a race? But you know something, I do it every day of my life. I have had some very, very good winners. I won't say it works all the time, it does not, but I've had some fantastic winners. If you align this process with other bits of form reading or other little systems that you've got, you can actually get yourself into a position where you know, you've got a bit of an edge. And you need it, especially nowadays when the bookmakers are just crashing you with all this stuff. You go into a lot of the bookmaking shops and you just hit with it. You don't know where you are. So you need something like this. So just to reiterate, look, to form the bottom trigram is dead simple. We do it out of the word handicap. Process is the same. Count the letters in handicap. There are 8. Divide by 8 because there are 8 trigrams that make up all 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. The result similar to the top trigram. 8 divided by 8 works out perfectly. So there's no remainder. 8 becomes the bottom trigram. So kun upon kun, 8 upon 8. In the last slide we can put the 2 trigrams together and form an I Ching hexagram that will relate to Holcomb handicap. Well, here we are in the last slide. How to form an I Ching hexagram out of the name of a race. Now in the second and third slide we made the 2 trigrams or trigrams, kun, out of the name of the race, Holcomb handicap. There it is in front of you, look on the screen. Hexagram number 2, kun. All it is was you just put the top trigram that you made with the bottom. There it is. That hexagram kun represents Holcomb handicap. It's as simple as that. Though, like I said in the earlier slide, you won't get simple races like this every day of the week. Though when you start with Raceching, I always advise that you try to pick races like this out. I mean, you can get 1 or 2 over the week, easy. You know, you just got to search for them and take your time with it. Once you become proficient, once you've read the book and understand a bit of how we do things, you'll be able to put anything together. You know, I mean, if it's 20 words long, the name of the race, the method will be the same and you'll learn how to do it. But I always say to people, well, just start like this and you can have quite a bit of fun. So hexagram number 2 in the I Ching, kun, represents a Holcomb handicap. This is Raceching in its simplest format, making hexagrams from the name of races. There's a lot more to it, and the information is contained in the book, but this is a simple place to start with. Understand how it all works. In the next video, part 2, I show you how to place a moving line on the hexagram. Finally, in part 3, you can see the outcome of this race, in as much as how I found the area where the winning horse was stabled. In other words, where the directions formed from making the hexagram were pointing on a compass, enabling me to make an accurate selection from a narrowed down field. Now all will be revealed in part 2, and what I will also do in the third and final slide, I will give you a little system that I use with this. It's based on first and second favourites in relation to how I work it out like this. So I'll give you a little system that basically revolves around first and second favourites, and you know where this all fits in, and you think to yourself, look, that second favourite, it's a 3-to-1 shot, god, it's coming from the perfect area according to this. The favourite is nowhere near it, then 9 times out of 10 it is worth a little bet. When you really get good with this, you can sometimes, well, a lot of times actually, spot the favourites that are going to go down, and of course you can make a bit of money on that, especially if they're very short price, because you can go on Betfair or some of the other exchanges and lay it. People that are really into racing will know what I'm talking about in regard to that. But if you're a beginner in this and you're just looking at this and thinking, well, okay, it could be worth a little view, just take your time with it and have some fun with it. I've had bags of fun with Raceching. Really have. I'm not telling you any lies here. I've had fantastic fun with it, got some wonderful winners, and also, you know, experienced the lows where I thought, oh god, what happened there? I've really mucked that one up. But that's the nature of the beast. You know, I mean, you can do that in whatever system you've got, but I've had loads of fun with this, and at times everything is fitted in and I've nailed it. You know, the directions do give you an edge, so that's what you've got, you know, to look forward to in this 3-set video. This is part 1, and in part 2 we'll get the moving line on there, And then in part 3 we'll show you the directions and how we nailed the winner of this particular race. So I look forward to seeing you in part 2. I'm Anthony J. Mead. I'm the author of Raceching Simplified. It's available from Amazon bookstores in both Kindle and paperback format. So pop in and have a look. And thank you for watching this audio video.